Hello, my name is Edwin Garcia Gaspar, and today I will be talking about the principles of scientific communication, and I will be addressing ethical issues when researching in human subjects, and will explain how to effectively communicate in person and by writing with others in healthcare. Alrighty, let's get started. There are five principles of scientific communication. The first principle is to understand your audience and their expectations regarding the topic. And when I say this, I mean you need to understand what is specific about your research, take into account your own objectives, and find what message you want to convey. The message is what you want your audience to remember after you have communicated your own findings. You should keep this message short and precise. Secondly, you want to connect with the public. How do you connect with the public, your audience? You show them empathy, you make them laugh, you tell them a story relating this topic, you put yourself in their own shoes. You say common grounds with them. You really make them feel that you also understand them. Thirdly, you make your own science understandable. This means you simplify everything for them to understand, to easily understand. Use simple wording, you use simple sentences, you make your language simple. For example, if you are writing something, let's say, you want to use simple everything, simple sentences, simple wording, because you want the reader to enjoy what they're reading and don't get caught up on those complex big wording sentences, but you want them to understand your point and get and understand what the whole concept of the article or whatever is. The fourth principle of science communication is talking about controversial topics. But if you do, you have to be ready. You have to expect your audience to have assumptions about their own ideas. And you don't have to think that the audience are being hostile. Instead, show them respect. Respect their opinion. Show that you are engaged in what they have to say. Show them you are open-minded, and if possible, ask them a couple questions about why they think that way. Show them respect and show them that you are open-minded and you can understand them. You can see their own perspective. Lastly, you really have to embrace your findings. Be certain with your evidence. Make your evidence shine. Have self-confidence on what you have said, on what you have proved of research. You have to really embrace what you find. Okay, so that wraps up the principles of communication. Next, I will be talking about how to effectively communicate with patients and their family members. I will also mention how to effectively communicate by writing with others. Could be co-workers, your boss, other healthcare workers in your field, etc. So we are going to start by introducing ourselves to the patient and their families. Then you will confirm patient identification. You gotta make sure you're bringing the right patient back. You gotta make sure it's the patient that needs that procedure. You have to verify their identity. Now, to fully communicate with this patient and their relatives, you have to understand the situation. You need to be clear with your explanation of procedures, and you have to be patient with them also. You have to understand that the patient and their family might have some questions or concerns regarding this procedure or what's going on. Ask the patient if they follow with you, if they understand. Ask them if they are absorbing the information being said or being given to them. Confirm with them if they understand what you're saying. Let's say there's a case of language barrier. You might want or you might need to bring another person to make your patient more comfortable. Let's say it's a only Spanish speaking patient and your coworker is fluent in Spanish, so you might want to involve them so they can feel more comfortable in the procedure they're doing. Okay, so then we are going to talk about how to effectively communicate in writing. This can be a little different because when I say by writing, I mean emailing somebody or leaving instructions behind for somebody to read. So this can be a little bit different because you don't physically have that person to communicate and use hand motions or nonverbal communication. It's all written. So when you communicate by writing, you need to be professional. One, you need to know your goal. You need to know why you're writing this. You have to keep the language and wording simple. Also, you have to have your goal sent shortly, clear. You have to make it easy for them to understand what you're saying, pretty much. So that's how you effectively communicate with your patients and their family members and others in healthcare workers. Okay, so next I will be talking and analyzing ethical issues and considerations in human subjects. Interesting subject, by the way. So let's begin. Let's talk about how it all began. So it all began with the Nazi doctors during World War II and their research with humans. Very immoral. Immoral, by the way. Can you imagine these Nazi doctors doing experiments in this in these Jewish people? It's terrible. So from that event of them doing research in humans, something called the Nuremberg Code emerged, which was a guideline of how to properly introduce humans into research trials. Remember, this was not in the United States, but then it got to the United States somehow, but it was not sufficient enough to be adapted by the United States. So we came up with the Belmont principles. So which are respect for the person, which means respect the rights of the patient, treat people as human beings and not animals, pretty much, respect the patient's choice. And then we have the beneficent principle is the second principle, which refers to no harm to the subject, and there is something called the benefit to risk ratio, which indicates that the benefit are higher than the risk. So the third principle from the Belmont report is justice, and it refers to the fairness with subject and their selection, and where there's full disclosure about the whole procedure, that whole research, so you really show justice for the patient. Now, in addition to the Belmont principles, we have federal regulation when dealing with human subjects. First, regulation, informed consent. Second, regulation is institutional assurance. And third, regulation is Institutional Review Board, the IRB review, also known as the Independent Ethical Committee. And that is how I will be wrapping up the information about the principles of science communication and the ethical dilemmas on human research. And that will be it. Thank you for tuning in. Bye bye.